Hello everyone, and welcome back to Eurofever Garage. With me today is probably the most BMW, non-BMW ever made. And with me is the 2020 Toyota GR Supra. B58 up front, rear wheel drive, 8-speed ZF transmission. This is the Z4 M Coupe reincarnated. So with the sunsetting of the G29 Z4 and of course the Supra with it, I thought this would be a great time to do a little bit of a reflection on what the Supra did to the car community throughout COVID, through the TikTok era, and even till today. I think this car really propelled and launched a lot of big automotive YouTubers and sort of changed the entire enthusiast landscape as a whole. And so I want to talk about that. Stick with me and let's get straight into it. So, starting off today's review, I thought what better way to show off the BMW, Toyota, Z4, GR, M40i, M Performance than under the hood. And in front of me is God's favorite engine, the B58. The full fat, balls to the wall, 385 horsepower, single turbo, closed deck, straight six that we know and love. Now, as you can see, this car has been modified a little bit, but in reality, there's really only 3 or 4 performance mods here. We have a FTP boost charge pipe up at the front, an AFE cold air intake, an Active AutoWorks catted downpipe, and an HKS catback exhaust. The car has not been tuned. There's no performance mods otherwise. We know these cars were underreported from the factory, so I would estimate that this is probably putting around 400 horsepower to the crank, maybe that 385-ish to the wheels. In any case, this is actually one of 3 other cars that use the B58 outside of BMW. I would say the second most popular is going to be your Ineos Grenadier folks, which is a Land Rover Discovery style off-roader, which has a down-tuned but still potent 350 odd horsepower B58. Also made it to a ZF 8HP, as is everything under the sun nowadays. And lastly is a Morgan 6. And if you're familiar with Morgan, they make a lot of interesting, we'll say, British-styled sports cars. So diving a little bit deeper into the intricacies of the Supra, and of course, launched in 2019, we've seen this car for the past 6 years sort of shape, change, and drive the car enthusiast culture on social media. I would say generally for the better, but of course we have seen some outliers that generally people who drive these cars are, a little bit rowdy and are chasing clout, for lack of a better term. And the reason I bring that up is because in reality, the Mk IV Supra kind of did the same thing and sort of ushered in the era of tuner culture to America. If you're a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, I mean, you'll probably remember the first time you saw that orange Supra on screen. And
nice car. What's the retail on one of those?
More than you can afford, pal. Ferrari.
Here we are 20 years later and the Supra's returned, or in this case, it's going away. And so that sort of leads me into my second point, and it's, what do we do from here? With this and the Z4 going away, Cayman's gone, there's not a lot of relatively affordable performance cars left. And I think that's something extremely saddening for driver-focused car enthusiasts who want to have something that gives them a better commute, something that they can take to the track that's still reliable. And so when you take the production numbers of the Supra and the Z4, Toyota makes more Camrys in a single month than they've made in the entire model range from 2019 to 2026. And if you want to whittle away that even more, there's probably only 6,000 manuals in both the Supra and the Z4 combined. And so when you put that into the context of global production for these vehicles, they're costing way too much for being just a drop in the bucket in terms of sales. It's a sad, sad world to say that the Supra is gone yet again. Let's liven up the mood a little bit and talk about the outside of the car. All right, so moving on to the outside of the car, and I kind of touched on it earlier. I feel like this is the modern interpretation of the clown shoe. Straight six, rear wheel drive, hatchback, 2 doors. I mean, that sounds like a recipe for success. And in reality, it is. Those cars didn't sell well, but in the car enthusiast community, the coupes sell for way more money than the roadsters. In this case, the Z4 equivalent kind of is the same money, so it really is kind of a moot point there, but long term, I would be curious to see what ends up holding its value more. At the end of the day, my guess is that the Supras are going to hold their value and even appreciate more because they have a bespoke manual transmission. It's a little bit more track focused, more rigidity, a little bit more driver centric. And so while the BMW probably has the better materials and the better interior quality, just based off of previous Z4 markets in the past, unless you want a manual roadster, I would say go for the Supra. Moving on to looks otherwise though, and taking a look at the car as a whole, I love the look. In all actuality, I think it's actually a little understated, as was the Mark IV before it. Just like the Mark IV, the Mark V has a very wide opening for tons of cooling for the extra radiators and brake ducting up front. Moving a little bit back here to the roof though, we have two extra little humps to allow for a little bit more headroom in case you're wearing a helmet. I don't really have that problem, but I'll get to that later in terms of the seating position. If you are a little bit taller, you might hit the roof line even with a helmet. Lastly, down here in the back, we have a sloped hatchback and of course a aftermarket deck lid, but you can of course get the spoiler that goes over as well. Visibility, something I'll get to later, is not this car's strong suit. Since this is a more driver focused car, what's in front of you is more important than what's on your sides and rears. So maybe it's a moot point, I don't know, but I just thought that was something to point out. And lastly, my favorite angle is probably the rear 3/4. I love the way that the taillights look. The LEDs are super bright at night. If you've seen any car photographer that takes pictures of Supras, I think they are super photogenic. And there are some small design cues here and there, like the fake vents, for example, that kind of scream 2020s. But in 20 years, I think this design will age beautifully. Just like the Z4 and Mark IV before it, it sort of toes the line between hot boy racer and sophisticated middle line manager that just wants to have something a little bit more fun. So now with that out of the way, let's hop in the inside and talk a little bit about the interior. Inside the 2020 Toyota Supra, and the familiarities from BMW do not stop under the hood. In front of me are the exact same buttons that are in my F32 4 Series, from the gear selector to the AC controls, the radio preset buttons, and even the cruise and radio buttons on the wheel. I will say the gauge cluster is very Lexus though, with the RPMs being right in the middle. However, the rest of it is very BMW, including even the iDrive system. Toyota infotainment system. This looks like a reskinned version of iDrive 6, which even in 2019 was already a generation old. So by this point, we're 3 generations behind. I will say, having sat in a few Z4s, I do like the layout and the materials used a little bit more. They have a few more options in terms of leather and finishing trim options, but at the end of the day, if you're buying this for a driver's car, what you want is simple, focused, and reliable. I think they knew going into it that the audiences and demographics were going to be different anyways. If you're driving a Supra, you're really focusing on what matters most, and that's what's in front of you. Finishing up in the interior here, and I want to talk a little bit about driver ergonomics, starting off with visibility. As you can see back there, that rear side mirror is extremely small and basically useless. I would not use that for anything. On top of that, the rear view mirror, you have very little visibility with the slope of the hatch. If you have a spoiler or a wing on your trunk, your rear visibility is gone. So at that point, all you have are your side windows and your front. The front one is extremely sloped, so I probably only have about this much visibility. And so with the thick A-pillars, I just feel very cocooned, and it's not a good feeling when you're driving. I like having visibility, so if you're sensitive to that, be sure to look out for that. Finishing up with the ergonomics though, these seats are very, very comfortable. If you didn't see our last review with the Audi S5, these seats are very, very similar with the sort of fixed headrest style. They are much, much better bolstered with the thigh support. As someone who has thicker legs, I cannot appreciate them enough. I think they give you great support. The backs and the side bolstering are really adjustable as well, and I feel very bucketed in a good way here. Nice and comfortable. Anytime I'm taking a turn, I don't feel like I'm gonna move at all. And so with that, I think it's now a great time to take it on the road and see what the Supra's like to drive. All right, inside the 2020 Toyota Supra, and already I'm met with tons of Bavarian influences. The sound of that B58 is undeniable. And surprisingly, the turbo spool from the AFE intake is insane. And I'm about to give you a quick test here. We're going on the highway where we can get this car up to speed and talk a little bit about the daily commute. So here we go from about 15. Jeez. The pull all the way through the RPMs is just, it hits you like a wave. It's not V8, it's not like the V8 N63 7 Series, but man, that induction noise is insane. And I don't know if I had ever heard a cold air intake on a B58 like that, so it's first time for me, at least, is what I'm trying to say. It sounds great. So starting off with driving impressions, the suspension feels basically the same as the 4 Series. You've got pretty rubber bandy 20-inch tires. Suspension is a little bit bouncy, but firm enough that I like the ride quality. They are adaptive, fortunately, so they do have a little bit of give to them, but I would say that in a daily commute, in this setup particularly, it can be a little bit harsh. There's gonna be a little bit of rubbing that I've heard already. Scraping is just inevitable as well. You have to really, really be on, you know, where is the front of your lip, where's the rear. It's just very low slung. All that aside, for a daily commuter, you are getting an excellent package. 27, 28 MPGs combined. Insulation from the road noise and sound is very, very good. Again, being a frameless window, I don't hear much in terms of road noise. There's a little bit of tire squeal, or tire groan, I should say. Having that hatch in the back as well, with no sound insulation, quote unquote. There is sound insulation back there, but in my 4 Series, when I put the seats down in the back, if I'm carrying something, I can hear that same effect of the exhaust rumbling in the back. And you get that here. The HKS exhaust is very mid-tony, not a lot of drone, especially if you're just sitting at idle, but as soon as you're on it, like anywhere throughout the RPM, it's pretty loud, or at least noticeable, but it's not bad by any means. The exhaust so far has been extremely livable. I would say it's definitely a little bit over bearable for a daily commuter, but if you're using this as your weekend car, do a couple groceries here and there, I would be more than happy with this. I would have a lot of fun in those back roads, groceries in the back, my boo thing in the passenger seat. It's just the visibility, you know. If I really have to nitpick here, I feel like just so cocooned in here. I don't know where my eyes want to look, because if I'm looking to the side, I can't see anything. And, you know, fortunately, those side mirrors are pretty big. The rear view mirror is pretty much useless. I wouldn't use it at all. Going through some of my checklist in terms of driving feel, I'm very surprised by the front tires. I was expecting a decent bit of wandering in the steering, but the 275s up front are very direct. The steering is super, super on point. Now, I'm curious to know what sport steering is gonna feel like, because in the G chassis cars, it is a little over boosted, and so I'm curious if that's gonna be the same situation here. The heads-up display is super, super crisp, so I know exactly how fast I'm going. I will say the gauges in here are a little too contrasty. The black backing with not too much font makes my eyes kind of wander around saying like, hey, what am I looking for? But overall, the Supra is exactly what I was expecting. A very nice, tight, driver-focused B58 monster that's gonna absolutely rip it through corners. And now with all that boring stuff out of the way, let's put it in sport mode and see what it can do. Man, those 295s grip. I did get a little bit of a slip there, but oh my goodness, the exhaust just opened up. And just like I suspected, that steering rack, it is boosted. I mean, it is very heavy. Almost in a way that I'm not a big fan of it, but it could be because of the tires and the steering effort there, but it's very responsive, which is what you want. You want it to be direct and responsive. I don't need vague. I don't care how boosted it is. I need to know where those wheels are going. And you can definitely feel the suspension stiffening up here. We're about to go around a roundabout here, so let's see how the turn in is. Very quick downshifting from that transmission. And we keep it tight. Nice and tight. Out open. Let it out. Yeah, she wants to sing. Now these roads up ahead look a little bumpy, so we're gonna put it back in comfort mode. I don't want to ruin this splitter. Ugh. There's those bumps. So I gotta be careful here. I just thought this was a decent back road, but we're gonna use it as a way to test the dampening. So I'm going about 40 miles an hour here, and it is a tight turn, but the car is handling beautifully. Some bigger bumps up ahead here that I gotta be careful of. It feels great though. It feels so planted. Bit of a rough patch here. Ah, there's that rubbing. Nice little S here. And we got a car in front of us. I am very happy with how this car handles. A culmination of BMW's engineering, Toyota's mindset, and their own engineering, and turning an already capable Z4 into something enthusiast-worthy. It's really not surprising in 2025 what Toyota has done, but back in 2019, Toyota said no more boring cars. Their CEO at the time, Akio Toyoda, if I pronounce that correctly, said he wanted no more boring cars. And the fact that your CEO is a driver for your racing team, I think that tells you enough of what Toyota was thinking when they brought this out. They brought out the GT86 and Subaru collaboration. They saw the success with that, and I'm sure that's what helped fuel this and create a monster. I mean, it's just, this car is what propelled a lot of, I would say, more modern car influencers, people who had never had access to power like this before. Now we're seeing the effects of tuning coming back, modifications, and just absolutely going balls to the wall with some track builds. I mean, going to Grid Life, seeing these on the track, you can really see how capable they are. I actually met a few people not too long ago who made a race spec Supra, and really the thing that was letting them down was the brakes. They didn't like the fact that it has brake-by-wire, and I'd have to agree with that. Everything is just so in tune. It's precise, it's smooth, it's linear, but the brakes are very touchy. They're very responsive, don't get me wrong, but I cannot imagine how long-term they'll hold up in the case of endurance, a long sprint, multiple flyer laps. you're going to be pushing this setup to its limit. And I know BMW has used this setup for a long time, but I hear the same thing from them. Even in the G80 guys, those brakes just, they're not happy. But all in all, I think the Supra drives wonderfully. It's what you expect from a BMW, sorry, a Toyota. It's what you expect from a driver's car that prioritizes driving first. Yes, it doesn't have the best technology. Yes, it could be a little bit more refined in here. But for the price, I mean, it's an absolute steal. Oh my goodness. And so with that, let's move to final thoughts and we'll close out this video. All right, what do I think of the 2020 Toyota Supra? I mentioned it earlier, but it feels like a very modern interpretation of the Z4 M Coupe. Now calm down, don't go flaming me in the comments saying, oh, but it's an M Light, don't call this thing an M. The Z4 M had 333 horsepower. The Z3 M only had 300 horsepower. The S52 and the Z3 put out just barely 300 in the European markets. And so I raise you the point that a true M car is about the handling characteristics and the visceral feeling that it gives you. Name me the last time a rear-wheel drive, straight six, manual or automatic, hatchback, sports coupe, whatever you want to call it, came out and was affordable. And so if we use the Z4 clown shoe as a retrospective here, these cars are going to appreciate in value. They're going to stick with the enthusiasts. I mean, there are not a lot of manual Z4 M coupes out there. The values out there are sometimes $15,000 to $20,000 more than an automatic and a roadster counterpart. And so if we look at the Z4 M40 automatics now and compare that to their manual and super manual counterparts 10, 15 years from now, this is going to be the one to buy. This is going to be the one that appreciates on you. It's going to be reliable. You're going to have the most fun with. And so going into 2026, as a car enthusiast, I'm scared. I really don't know what's out there for us. Again, that's affordable, that's reliable, that's efficient. It's just a category that doesn't exist anymore. The world wants SUVs and crossovers and hybridization. But again, I'm not here to contribute to the doom and gloom of car society and car culture as a whole. My focus and my goal is to celebrate, document, record, and contribute to the future and sort of be that stepping stone for enthusiasts that are getting into the hobby today. And so with that, I want to say thank you so much to Toyota, to BMW, to the owner of this car, for giving us a glimpse of what could have been. Before we go, I want to leave you with one question. What are you most looking forward to in car culture in 2026? Don't forget to leave a like for the YouTube algorithm. Press subscribe so you stay up to date on all reviews that we release. And if you want to see our other reviews, you can check that playlist out up here. As always, my name's Donovan. I'm the host of Euro Fever Garage. And until next time, see you guys later. Bye.